Hello, everyone. This is Debra Poneman, and I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Marilyn Jenett, who will be sharing with us how to create unexpected income in 2 weeks by putting the universe on speed dial. Marilyn is a renowned prosperity mentor, an accomplished businesswoman, and the owner of a company that served the corporate arena for 20 years. Marilyn overcame her own lack consciousness to create her former business that ended up attracting the world's largest corporate clients and major media publicity. And she did this all without marketing, advertising, or networking. In fact, she achieved all of this through the use of her prosperity principles alone. And as she says, with the universe as her marketing department. Her achievements were the result of applying the prosperity laws that she now teaches in her Feel Free to Prosper program, which is a simple yet powerful lesson and mentoring program based on mental and spiritual laws that traditionally creates results within 2 weeks. Marilyn founded her program so that she could mentor and teach others to become aligned with universal laws and accept their right to prosper. And she's helped thousands of students from around the globe and from all walks of life enjoy remarkable success. Marilyn's promise, and it's not a promise made lightly, is to show people how to manifest unexpected income and unexpected solutions to their most pressing problems in just 2 weeks. Thousands of people have applied her simple, fast, and practical techniques to gently create a new dominant thought in the subconscious mind and connect to their universal source of supply. Marilyn will take the mystery out of these esoteric laws and teach you how to put the universe on speed dial. Well, this sounds very exciting, and just a few specific points that Marilyn's going to cover in this interview. First, what are these mental and spiritual laws, and why affirmations may not bring you results? Why you shouldn't try to create success. In fact, trying will never get you there. Why what you think is your source of income is really not your source of income. The words that you are habitually using that are preventing your success. The single most immediate thing you can do right now to increase your income. Marilyn, this all sounds very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the call.
Well, thank you so much, Debra. It's a wonderful introduction, and it is my honor to be here, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that you're giving me to share my experience and my knowledge with your audience.
Well, I am so looking forward to our time together, and I know that everybody listening is as well. And I'd like to ask you to take a few minutes and share a little bit more about yourself. We know you manifested great success in the corporate world, and we want to hear more about that. And we'd also like to know, what was your life like before that success? What do you believe are the major turning points that allowed you to manifest your current level of considerable success? So can you share that with us?
Well, to start with, my parents were good people, decent people, but they had a very negative consciousness about money, about life. And the legacy I got from them was a struggle mentality. And I know many of your listeners are going to be able to relate to that. And I went into the world with this consciousness of struggle and not being able to meet my needs. And something in my soul that drove me to find out what is going on here in this game of life. Why is it some people can succeed and accomplish in life and others cannot? And I was driven to study and to totally just entrench myself in the teachings of the great icons that came before us, those legendary, brilliant masters of mental and spiritual science. And I buried myself in their teachings and the literature. And I had some changes. I had some shifts, but I still wasn't at the point where I wanted to be, where I knew that I wanted to make a mark in the world. I wanted to do something meaningful. I wanted to accomplish. I did not want to be like my parents. And there came a point when I was reaching a milestone age. I won't tell you what that age is. I said, that's it. I've had it. I am going to do this. I am going to have a breakthrough. And I really decided I'm going to take everything that I had learned. Does this sound familiar? You learn it all. You read all the books. You have all that information in your head, but somehow you don't seem to be able to incorporate it into your everyday life. Well, that's what I decided to do. I said, I am going to take these laws and I'm going to make them work and I'm going to change my life. I'm going to overcome this, what I call a lack consciousness. I teach the power of words, how significant our words are. So I don't like that P word. So let's say lack consciousness. And I made the decision that I was going to do the homework and I'm going to succeed. And what I did is I took the essence of all of this great knowledge of the prosperity laws, of the universal laws, and I put it in very simple, doable, the essence of these laws, very simple formats so that I can use them and apply them. And I did. And I had a breakthrough. And of course, I'm skipping over a lot of detail here, but I did have a breakthrough to the point where I found myself with a new business, actually in an industry that I didn't even know existed. But the universe handed me, once I became aligned with that power that we're going to talk about tonight, and that power, that presence that knows the answers, that knows our destiny, knows where we belong, I ended up on the cover of the Los Angeles Times with my new business, a pioneer company that I created for the special event industry. And in 20 years, and again, I'm skipping over a lot of detail, but I know this is literal. You might not think it's literal, but I mean this literally. In 20 years of having that business, I never advertised, I never marketed, I never cold called, I didn't join any trade organizations, and I didn't network. And yet my little one-woman company here in Los Angeles, where, of course, millions of people come here to try to achieve their dreams, my little one-woman company attracted the biggest corporations in the world. And the universe handed me a business that was the industry that is most impacted by negative disasters and recessions. And yes, I was knocked down several times between the Los Angeles riots and Northridge earthquake and national recessions and 9/11. I kept getting knocked down. It wasn't always easy, but you know something? Those were the times that taught me the most. That taught me what worked and what didn't work. And we either succumb to the outer circumstances or we reach for that universal life jacket and we learn to connect. And that's what I did. And I did not know in all that time, my 15 minutes of fame with all that publicity turned into a 20-year career. But I didn't know in all that time that I was being groomed by this universal power. And we'll talk about what that power is in a moment. I did not know that I was being groomed to learn these laws so that one day I would teach and help others. That didn't come into awareness until 8 years ago. Well, actually 9 years ago now, when I was encouraged to teach. And I never had considered, it was my passion, these laws, what I call these prosperity laws, these mental and spiritual laws were my passion in life. But my goal was to help myself. I didn't know that I would ever be capable or have the ability to help others. But the doors started to open. It opened naturally. And I said, okay, if I'm supposed to teach these laws, then universe, give me a method. Give me the gift to be able to help others. Give me something simple, something easy that others can grasp easily and get results quickly so they don't have to go through my 40-year journey of study. And from that request was born a series of lessons called the Feel Free to Prosper program. I had never been online. I had never been on a computer before, but I had gotten online on a social media site. It was like a kid in the candy store. I didn't know there was such a thing as talking to people on the internet or social media or posts and threads on forums. And I started my network called the Feel Free to Prosper Network, and it was really magical. People started to come for the lessons from all over the world, and testimonials flew in. And I was just absolutely just amazed at what had happened. And I knew that I was tuned into my destiny. And it was like breathing to me. I could not stop. I did ask myself, how can I make a living doing this? I was used to making big chunks of money from these corporate and convention events. And I said, how can I make a living doing this? I didn't know there was a coaching industry. I thought Coach was a sitcom on TV. And I said, universe, give me a sign. Am I supposed to do this? Because I couldn't stop. As I said, it was like breathing. It was coming from my soul. I knew I had to do this. And out of the blue, a fluke phone call from not even a business source. It was a housewife in Los Angeles called, and she said they were looking for I know someone who's looking for a home to rent for a week. I said, well, no, I'm in the special event industry. You would need to call a real estate company if you're, need a home for a week. He said, no, it's for a party. I said, a party for a week? And she said, oh, I don't know anything about it. I'll have someone call you. And I just hung up. It was, it was nothing. And a half an hour later, I heard from a gentleman back east at a marketing company. He said, someone just handed me your number. We have been looking for 6 months for the right mansion for our client for a promotion, and someone gave me your number. That client was Campbell Soup, and they spent over the next 3 years, they spent over $450 million to promote to children. And I was the key vendor. I got on my website, you see the castle in England and the Hollywood mansions and the island in the Caribbean. You see what had happened is the universe said to me, you just keep doing what you're doing and you help people, you'll be provided for. I'll take care of you. And that's exactly what happened. And I did 6 promotions for Campbell's for 3 years. And after that, I told them I can't do any more. And they took very little of my time, by the way. That was the cushion to help me build Feel Free to Prosper. And Feel Free to Prosper took off. And I just pretty much released my former business because this is my mission. This is my sole mission in life, is taking my experience, my knowledge, and bringing it to others so they can benefit. That's the legacy I want to leave.
That is quite an amazing story, and you are truly an inspiration. And I'm thinking that the first thing we should establish is, what are these universal laws? I believe you even call them mental and spiritual universal laws. Can you clarify for all of us what those laws are?
Well, Debra, I know you have a very spiritually savvy audience here, and many people have been exposed to these metaphysical and spiritual concepts, and there are a lot of new people too who are new to these ideas. So for the benefit of those who are new, and also as a refresher to those who are familiar with universal laws, I would like to give a foundation, basic introduction to these universal laws from my perspective that will lead to your understanding of what I call prosperity principles or mental and spiritual laws. And then I'm going to share my knowledge of how the principles work when we align ourselves with them. And by using these principles, you can magnetize your good to you, and you can turn your negative situations around, often very dramatically. So let's talk about the universe. Now, the universe as we know it, as we see it, as we experience it, it's not all there is. The universe is always in motion. It is vibrating, pulsating, resonating, magnetizing. It's a magnetizing force. And at the molecular level, everything is in motion. It's pure energy. What we are talking about here is the pure formless substance of the universe. Now, we live in a really amazing time, a great age of discovery. We can address this substance as a mental, spiritual, scientific. It's all there. We could think of it in spiritual terms, for example, as God, higher power, spirit, or the universe. We can address it mentally as infinite intelligence, universal mind, divine mind, formless substance. Or we can think of it scientifically as energy or relativity. Or we can even take a giant leap into the area of quantum physics, where it is known as the field of all possibilities. Now, this power, however you perceive it, is the source of everything we desire. It's awaiting our recognition, and it will create and attract, guide us to inspired action. It will magnetize, mold itself to whatever form we desire if we align ourselves with it through certain laws called universal laws. Now, what are these laws? That's what we want to address here. What are these laws? Well, we know that there are laws of physics, laws of chemistry, laws of mathematics, but most people are not aware of the laws that govern the mental and spiritual realms. These are the creative laws of the universe that govern our existence. Or you may know something about them, but don't know how to relate to them or how to use them. So how do we know these laws exist, or that this universe or power exists? Aside from any intuitive feeling that it does, or because Marilyn here says it does. We know because of its responsiveness, by the results we experience when we align ourselves with it. Now, I can tell you from my own personal experience that once you become aware of the response of this universal presence, you will never be the same. You will feel a love. You're going to feel a connection, a sense of security that is greater than anything you have felt on an earthly level. I also believe this is a very loving presence. And I believe it is the most important. I'm going to stick my neck out here and say this, but hear me out. This presence, our alignment with this presence, is the most important thing in our lives. It's more important than our families, than our health, than our children, than our work, our creativity. Why is it more important? Why is it the most important thing? Because all of those other things, everything we can ever desire, everything we could want, everything we have, comes from it. That's where it all begins. So these laws work for everyone alike. The law of gravity works for everyone, right? Successful people are using the mental and spiritual laws. They just may not realize they're doing so. And guess what? You are using these laws all the time, whether you realize it or not. Only you're most likely not using them for the purpose and the intention that you desire consciously. Now, how many times have you attracted things in your life that you feel you did nothing to deserve, and you say, why did this happen? Why is this happening? Well, remember, universal laws are simple. The actual principles and the techniques that relate to the laws are surprisingly simple. We humans complicate things. Well, let's use the law of gravity as an example. We do not need to have a vast knowledge of the laws of physics to understand how gravity works. We know that if we step off of a tall building, we're going to fall. We know that if we align ourselves with this law correctly, we won't have any mishaps. Well, it's exactly the same with the mental and spiritual laws. If we align ourselves with them correctly, we won't have mishaps. We will instead experience joyful results. So now you're asking, okay, Marilyn, so how do we align ourselves with it? We connect with this power, this creative force of the universe within, through the channel of our subconscious minds, through our thoughts and our feelings. Now, the subconscious mind is the most fantastic computer you could ever imagine. It keeps our heart beating, our lungs breathing. It has a perfect memory of every cell in our body. It has also recorded and stored everything that we have ever heard, said, felt, and experienced. Unfortunately, that includes all of the faulty beliefs and the negative patterns from others that we have acquired from the time we were very young through our lifetime. So our thoughts and our feelings, our deepest beliefs, are the key to connecting with the power that responds to our desires. But first, we must break through and overcome the negative thought patterns and beliefs that we have acquired since childhood. Now, here's where our subconscious minds are different than computers. We can't delete anything from the subconscious. And guess what? It's not necessary to do so. And my students are very happy when they understand that. They go, oh, I don't have to get rid of all my negative thoughts. No, you don't have to. That's good news. In order to shift our consciousness, we create a new dominant thought. That's the key. The subconscious mind doesn't like to change. It will create resistance. Now, we know that from when we try to change a habit. But there are techniques and methods for influencing the subconscious in a way that does not create argument. And I label this friendly persuasion. We gently shift the consciousness to create a new dominant thought in the mind. The key is the dominant thought. Now, the dominant thought in our conscious and our subconscious minds, that's what determines our circumstances. The results that we have in life are the outcropping of the thoughts and impressions that are established in your mind on a subconscious level. So we must shift our consciousness to a new dominant thought, a new awareness. And when we do, we open ourselves to the influence of the creative power of the universe, to what I call our invisible means of support. Now remember that the subconscious records everything. Everything that you have ever heard or said or felt is recorded in perfect memory, whether or not you were conscious of it or not. And often the more casual words are the ones that drop into the subconscious more easily and are accepted because we don't monitor them. We're not refuting them. Now, and I'd like to share an analogy that my students love. And I share this often with regard to manifesting our desires. by creating agreement between the conscious and the subconscious minds. So I'm going to ask you to think of the conscious mind as the husband, the assertive male aspect of mind. Now, remember, we're talking about aspects of mind here, not the real world gender-specific situations. So just bear with me on this analogy. So the husband is the assertive male aspect of mind. The husband, and the subconscious is the female receptive aspect of mind. The husband impregnates the wife. And when the subconscious becomes impregnated with this new seed thought, the new idea, then from this union, children are born. These children are your answered prayers or your desired results. So it is through this marriage of the conscious and subconscious minds, when they both agree on an idea, that the idea will become manifest or fulfilled. Now, what we need to do now, and why I'm here today, is we need to teach the husband how to impregnate the wife. So we make a decision with the conscious mind. We use our conscious mind to instill this idea into the subconscious until it is accepted. And once the seed has been accepted in the soil of mind, it will grow and manifest just as the seed planted in the ground will become a plant or a flower. First, we do our job and we plant the seed. We nurture the soil with positive thoughts and expectation, and then we turn the job over to universal mind, to the creative forces. We can relax and let go. Our manifestation will come. There's no such thing as half pregnant. Our baby will be born. So from this foundation I've given you, I would like you to contemplate this message. I want you to come to a clear understanding that you do not carry the burden of manifestation on your shoulders. You have at your disposal the creative forces of the entire universe waiting to do your bidding if you will just do your part to apply the rules.
Fantastic. I have a question. Why do you say that affirmations may not bring us results? Wouldn't that just be putting the new thought into the subconscious or creating a new path?
Now, I'm not saying affirmations do not work. Affirmations are a fantastic tool for creating. So why can you use affirmations but you don't get results? Well, you have to understand how the subconscious mind works, and you have to know how to address the resistance of the subconscious. Remember, we talked earlier about the resistance, the argument. The subconscious is going to argue. If there is a mindset or thought pattern of lack established in the subconscious mind, and you were to apply many of the types of affirmations that are generally recommended, here's what happens. Your subconscious mind has an established pattern of lack. So you might use an affirmation such as, I am wealthy or I am prosperous. And do you know what happens? Your subconscious knows you are lying and it resists. You feel that you are lying. You look around at appearances and you say, yeah, right, who am I kidding? So now, what are you focused on? What are you thinking about now? Now you're
lack.
Exactly. You are now focused more on lack. And because you are now focused on lack, circumstances will be perpetuated, or get this, they may even get worse. It reminds me of, don't think of a white elephant. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't like to change. This part of the mind doesn't reason. It just accepts input as an order. And once it accepts a mindset or thought pattern, it will resist any effort to change it. If you give your subconscious mind information that it doesn't accept, it will argue. It will do everything to maintain the status quo. Then you may get the opposite of what you want. So the answer is in not creating the argument or resistance in the subconscious mind. And remember, I said I teach the techniques that gently persuade the subconscious to shift and accept the new prosperous idea without creating resistance. So that's the whole key to using affirmations, is to be able to use them in a way that creates a shift without creating resistance. What people don't realize is that affirmations will not be effective until you have tilled the soil of the mind first. Once the subconscious soil is tilled, it will accept the seeds that you plant. Otherwise, it won't. I don't teach my students to compose the affirmations till later, a couple of weeks into the program. By then, students have tilled the soil of their minds with other techniques. We use words, for example. Words will not create the argument that a statement or declaration or affirmation will. Now, I knew from the beginning of Feel Free to Prosper and the results from my students that obviously that the universe had blessed me with this very powerful key here. And I believe it's a missing one in the manifestation process. You need to understand that affirmations are not one breed. There are many types of affirmations and different ways to use them. If you don't use them correctly, as I said, you may create the opposite of what you want. People find this very interesting. Even the way you were brought up, whether you accepted parental authority or not as a child, will determine whether certain types of affirmations will work for you, or whether your subconscious will accept those worded in the first or second person. And what that means is, I am is the first person, you are is the second person. So your subconscious may react to certain types, formats of affirmations depending on your upbringing. I think it's a fascinating study. So there's more to just grabbing an affirmation out of the blue and saying it and expecting results. You have to understand a little bit more about affirmations and the types of affirmations and how to use the ones that click with you, the ones that your subconscious, that gives you the feeling of possibility. And that's part of the process of learning these prosperity principles, is how to use affirmations correctly. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the difference between I am and you are, and also our programming from when we're small, that makes complete sense as to what would actually take root in that tilled soil and what will not take root. I've never heard this before. This is so unique, and it makes complete sense. Wow. And is that why we shouldn't try to create success? I mean, what do you mean about trying will never get us there?
You know, if I knew I was going to teach over all those years of being a businesswoman, if I ever knew I was going to be teaching these principles, that the universe was grooming me to be a teacher, I would have a warehouse full of notes. But luckily, my subconscious just seemed to attract things to me. Remember, I was doing this all for me back then. I just wanted to change my own life. And I just learned facts and details that don't seem to be well known. So I'm really very conscious that I was blessed with finding certain bits of knowledge that are not that common, and that have really helped me to teach these principles and make it simple for people to absorb them. One of those laws, there's a law that I never hear people speaking about. But I'm going to tell you, the only time I ever heard anyone speaking about it, and I'll tell you who that was in a moment, but did you know there's a law called the law of reversed effort? Did you ever hear of it, Debra?
I actually did not.
The law of reversed effort. Even people who are very knowledgeable in this area, like yourself, I'm surprised that people don't know about it. But somewhere along the line, back then, I picked it up and I used it. It states that the harder you try to do something, the less chance you have of achieving it. I'm going to repeat that. The law of reversed effort states that the harder you try to do something, the less chance you have of achieving it. Trying implies a negative to the subconscious. It suggests to the mind that you may not accomplish, that you may not succeed. Now, I won't even say person, the only entity that I ever heard express this was Yoda in Star Wars. He recognized this truth when he wisely said, do or do not, there is no try. Remember that?
I absolutely do.
Do or do not, there is no try. Yoda knew about the law of reversed effort. So we plant our seeds in preparation. We want our desired result to grow and manifest, just as the seed planted in the ground becomes a plant or a flower. So we must first do our job, plant our seeds. We nurture the soil, as I said, with positive thoughts, with expectation. And we turn the job over to universal mind, to the creative forces. We can relax and let go. Our manifestation will come. We don't have to try. The more we force, the more we were telling our subconscious mind that we don't have what we want. Here's a simplistic, concrete example of how this law of reversed effort works. Did you ever misplace your keys or another object? And you try to figure out where it is, but you just don't remember. You don't know where you left it or how you lost it or where it is. And the moment your attention is somewhere else, You're doing something else entirely, and you stop thinking about it, and you stop forcing the answer, and suddenly the answer pops into your mind. Sometimes it won't just pop into my mind, but I'll actually walk right to where it is. So when we stop forcing answers, the answers will come speedily. So this principle can apply to everyday life, to business, everywhere. Did you ever try to solve an important problem, and you tried everything to find a solution, but then to no avail? You couldn't find a solution. You tried everything. Then from sheer exhaustion, you give up. Suddenly the answer appears because you finally let go. You finally let go and allowed everything to come to you. We're just aligning ourselves with our guidance and with those answers. But trying is implying a negative. We might say, the way I like to express it is, between the time to plant and the time to sow is the time to let go. We release it and we just know. Do or do not, there is no try. The harder you try to create success, the deeper the message is to your subconscious that you don't have what you want. And what we do in this work, what we're doing with these principles, is to instill the idea of acceptance of what we want in the subconscious, which is our conduit, our pipeline to universal mind. Now, how can we be instilling the idea of our answered result, instilling the idea of our wish fulfilled, and at the same time be trying to get it? Dr. Joseph Murphy, the great, I knew Dr. Murphy. He was my first great teacher. Dr. Joseph Murphy said, feel the joy of the answered prayer. That's key.
Well, most people say that their job or their clients or even their investments are their true sources of income. Mm-hmm. And you say that they are not, which I find interesting. And if they're not, then what is our source of income?
I think you'll like this. And I know you'll understand it. And I want everyone listening, I want you all to really pay attention to this, because I have to tell you, this is a component of my teaching that has changed my students' lives. This is a primary concept, very valuable lesson. If you grasp it, I'm telling you, it will change your life. It will change your financial life. If you broaden your understanding, it go way beyond the monetary aspect. This is back to my introduction where I talked about our alignment with that presence. So here you go. Listen carefully. Your business is not your source of income. Your job is not your source of income. Your customers, your clients, your investments, even your spouse is not your source of income. None of these are your source of income. There is only one source of income: the universe, God, divine presence, infinite spirit, formless substance, whatever your concept is of that universal source of good. The universe. I love the term the universe because it's a neutral term that can apply to everyone of every faith, every belief system. But I'm meaning all of it is it's hard to put words on that wonderful presence. But let's call it the universe. The universe is your source of supply. God is the source of your supply. And that is the only source of your supply. All of those other avenues are channels for your supply, but they are not the source of your supply. And when you truly understand and know this, then you will open the pipeline to the unlimited, life without limits, the unlimited channels of supply that exist for you. And there are indeed unlimited channels through which your good can come to you. Oh, the unexpected, that's the fun part. Love the unexpected income. But you can only become open and receptive to these free-flowing channels when you put your complete reliance on the true source. I love analogies because I think it helps us understand these esoteric concepts. Let's use the analogy of a kitchen faucet. The faucet is not the source of water. It is only a channel. If that channel is broken or closed, then there are an infinite number of other channels through which we can get our water, right? So when you look at your true source of supply, it will become the senior partner in your business and your life, and you will prosper. You will be in the right place, in your present position, or a better one. You will be at peace. Obviously, there are other lessons to learn to speed our journey on the path to prosperity, but I can't emphasize enough how important this one is. Recognize the difference between sources and channels. As I had mentioned in my story there at the beginning, I owned a renowned special event company that served the corporate and convention markets. And 9/11, as an example, had a tremendous impact on our industry, as it did with many others. And I was initially affected by the mass mind thinking. Even prosperity mentors have their moments. We're human. But a wonderful teacher came out of the blue and reminded me something that I knew, that I had to focus on truth principles and know that my business of 20 years was not my source of supply. I said, oh, of course. I knew what I had to do. And when I did it, when I went back to my reliance on the source, channels began to open in totally unexpected areas, and some were totally unrelated to my regular business. Money flowed in. The universe took care of me and provided for me. And then my business rebounded beyond my dreams in ways that then allowed me to fulfill my life by following my heart path, my true purpose, which is why I'm here talking to you now. So always remember the difference between your source and your channels.
What does it mean to have the universe on speed dial?
The universe on speed dial, yes. That's because of the speed with which my students respond to the lesson work and to these principles, because these are teachings from my lessons. Once we overcome the faulty conditioning in our subconscious and we become aligned and we connect with that power, we can have manifestations instantly. Some things can happen instantly. I'm talking in minutes. But 2 weeks is great. But yes, that's what I mean by universe on speed dial. All of these techniques, if we break through that faulty conditioning in the subconscious and align ourselves with that greater presence, we can create our results for whatever we want in life. Healings, not just money, obviously, but jobs and money and health and healings, romance, whatever it is that you want. It can happen very quickly. Now, it's true that just as a plant or a flower or a tree has a certain germination period, some manifestations also have germination periods. Sometimes there are adjustments that have to be made at the universal level to bring all the elements together for our desire to come to fruition. And that's where patience and trust comes in. Because what is this all about? This is all about trusting that there is an intelligence in the universe that can give us what we want, and that can provide for us, and that can guide us to our greatest good, right? Isn't that what this is all about? Ultimately, is that trusting? I think that's the greatest hunger that we all have. I think more than anything in life, whether people are even consciously aware of it or not, is to feel that we are connected to something greater than ourselves, that we're not here alone. We're not biological accidents. We are part of something much greater. And I'm telling you that because I've experienced this for my adult life. When we become tuned in with that greater something, that's where you don't even have to be concerned about speed. You will know that you are in the flow of life that is right for you, and everything just spontaneously will flow to and from you the way it is supposed to. I hope that answers the question.
Well, very good. And hey, 2 weeks, we don't need instantaneous. 2 weeks, we'll take 2 weeks. I mean, and you're talking about things that we wanted for a lifetime.
Yeah, so what if it takes 3 weeks? Or I say to people, what if it takes a month or even 2 months? My Feel Free to Prosper program is a 2-month program because the science behind it, the psychology behind it, it takes 2 weeks to create a new neural pathway in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that at the beginning when I started teaching. I just knew that my students were getting results in traditionally the second week. Some people, it can take longer. It could take a few weeks or it could take a couple of months. But when it happens, as long as you're persistent, because we all have different backgrounds, we all have different layers in the subconscious of experiences that we have to go through. But even if it took a few weeks or a month or 2 months, that's a drop in the bucket after a lifetime of struggle or not getting what we wanted. If you just apply the principles. And in fact, when I started teaching the first year, a student called me up and said, "Did you see the Discovery Channel last night?" And I said, "No, what happened?" They're now saying the latest research on neuroscience and NLP is that it takes 2 weeks to create a new neural pathway in the brain. Now, back then, years ago, when I was studying the subconscious, in most psychological circles, they said it took 21 days to a month to change a habit. But somehow the 2 weeks was significant in my program. But that's where science supports it. And all of the latest information in neuroscience tells us how that happens, what happens in the brain. That's why you can't rush it. That's why my program is a 2-month program. We can't rush it. We spend 2 weeks on each lesson.
Well, another thing that you said is that that some of the words that we habitually use prevent our success. Are there specific words that we use that might be doing this? And if so, can you share those with us so we stop saying them?
Well, words are such an important component of my teachings that I'm going to spend a little time on this with you. Just like the source versus channel, this is very, very important too. Okay? If you listen to this and follow what I'm saying, I'm telling you this will change your life. You will become aligned with that greater power. Your subconscious will become your friend instead of working against you inadvertently. It will become your friend because you'll be giving it the right messages. So let's talk about words here, okay? The foundation of my Feel Free to Prosper teachings is the words. So I'm going to spend time with this, some real time on the subject. It's important to realize that every word we speak, every thought we think, every emotion we feel is recorded in the subconscious. And through repetition or with enough faith or emotional impact, the subconscious will accept our words as a command. It will create subjectively, but it will also attract circumstances and conditions and people that will ensure the fulfillment of our, quote, our order. And even the words spoken casually can bypass the conscious mind and drop into the subconscious and take root. It's been said the subconscious mind cannot take a joke. So seemingly harmless expressions, if accepted by the subconscious, will produce undesirable results in our lives. On the other hand, positive, life-enhancing, prosperous, success-oriented words will produce results that correspond, and they can bring about astonishing results and turn situations around dramatically and strikingly fast. Repeating successful, prospering words will ensure success and prosperity in your work, in your business, and in your life. It will open up the channels for income from both expected and unexpected channels. Whether we have a religious affiliation or not, at some point in time, most people have heard the expression, in the beginning was the word. Have you heard that, Debra? In the beginning was the word?
I have definitely heard that.
From the Bible. I'm not a Bible scholar, but I've gathered the right quotes and the right information that Bible contains much pure spiritual law, and I gathered what I needed to know for myself and then later to be teaching. But from the Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, since Feel Free to Prosper is not a religious teaching, but it is based on spiritual law, it encompasses all aspects of spiritual law. For this study, for this moment, let's substitute the word law for God. So I'm going to repeat that quote. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with law, and the Word was law. See the connection? In the beginning lessons of Feel Free to Prosper, I help my students come to an understanding and grasp just how powerful their word is, the spoken word and especially the written word. See, our words they become our claim. They are the imprinting of our desires on universal mind substance. Our words are our claim to our natural inheritance. Our word is the bridge between our heartfelt desires and our Creator. Our Creator meaning God, universe, spirit, infinite intelligence, divine mind, Lord, law. The universal Creator has the ways and means, the know-how to turn our words into flesh, into physical reality. So our word is our manifesting connection to the law of our being, the Lord or the law of our being. Our word becomes form, material, when we make our claim, we stake our claim with faith and expectation. Think of our word as the manifesting mechanism in our fulfillment factory. Our words become the law of our being. Now, when we say on one hand that we want this thing, but we continue to express words that represent the opposite of our desire, we succeed in perpetuating the same unwanted condition, and we don't reach our freedom, our fulfillment state. But if we say on one hand that we want this thing, and we also say and write and express words that represent our desire, then we succeed in creating the space for that desire to rush in, and we attract it, and we reach our freedom state. And then our word becomes physical, tangible. It becomes our fulfilled desire. So in more clinical terms, we have then succeeded in creating that agreement of the desired idea between our conscious and subconscious minds. And remember, when both aspects of the mind agree on the same idea, our desire becomes manifest. So we can't have it both ways. We cannot want one thing and express its opposite and expect the powerful laws of the universe to work on our behalf. You can't claim to feel prosperous and then state that there's no way to pay your bills. That very statement will ensure that the ways to pay those obligations will not get through to you, because those words have now become your law, and they beautifully represent the law of lack. That's your self-fulfilled prophecy. The law is never going to stop working for you, and you can't stop using it. But you can use it to manifest what you don't want. Or you can learn to use it with purpose and with alignment with the abundance that exists for everyone, including you. Now, you say, some of you out there say you need an answer. Well, there's always an answer. There's always a solution. And the universe and the law have ways that you could never imagine. But you must invite these answers and these solutions with your words. We're not lying. We're not ignoring reality. I'm not teaching courses on lying here. We are creating a new reality, the reality that we truly desire. Our words create our feelings. Our words and feelings create our reality. And that reality is moldable and always subject to change. Remember that. What you think of as your current reality is moldable. It's always subject to change. But we must do our part, and then the law of our being will do its part. Just remember, our words will not return to us void. Change the words that you speak to reflect those spoken by a successful person, or words that represent what you want in life. Eliminate any words or phrases from your vocabulary that represent the opposite of what you want. I have a quote. My students love this. If you don't want it, don't say it. You can quote me on that.
That is so fantastic.
Don't say it. You can begin this right now, right this very moment. Changing your thoughts usually can not be done quite as quickly or as easily, but by changing your words, you'll be well on your way to changing those undesirable thought patterns and changing your life and finances. Your words have tremendous power. Believe it. Never doubt that. Think open sesame. Open sesame. Change your words. How many times have you said to yourself out loud or to yourself, quietly to yourself, I can't afford? You want to be prosperous? Well, start monitoring. Now, the good thing is that in my teachings and the techniques we use, we get the subconscious to start accepting the new idea, and then what happens, it starts alerting you. Once it starts getting the new message, then it will stop you from saying the words. Again, the subconscious can become your friend. But you need to catch yourself from saying those words, because everything drops into the subconscious. And you are most likely playing out, your financial situation is playing out your mindset. Your deepest beliefs about money is what is mirrored in your life. Your outer circumstances are merely mirroring what's going on a subconscious level. You want to start changing your subconscious? Change your words. Bite your tongue. Zip the mouth if you have to, but don't say it. If you don't want it, don't say it.
You know, Marilyn, I have to say that I've heard this for a long time, being a student of these types of principles, but I have never heard a clearer explanation than you just gave us as to why we should not express those things that we don't want to manifest. It really, I've never heard a better explanation. And I think that everyone's getting the picture of what's possible for them if they begin to apply what you teach. And what I would love for you to do right now is to take a few minutes, if you don't mind, and share some of the success stories, I guess you'd call them, that you've seen in the lives of people who have already begun to apply your Feel Free to Prosper principles. Do you have some things that you could share with us?
I'd love to share some of them. What I like to do is to share examples, a few examples from people from different walks of life. Every one of my students, every testimony, every manifestation that happens, they're all very precious to me. That's the fuel that keeps me going. As long as those results keep coming in, I keep teaching. One that came in recently, a few weeks ago, that I'd love to share. But first, let's talk about Minerva. At the time I met her a couple of years ago, she was 24 years old. She's a California realtor, single mom. So she's on commission. She's not a salaried employee. She's on commission. And at that time, we were going through an economic recession, and the real estate market had pretty much bottomed out. And she started with my program, and just from the first lesson alone, she attributes it to the simplicity of the first lesson, but she closed 3 transactions. She opened 2 new ones. She received marketing analysis assignments from banks, which pay agents fees. And then she acquired 4 approved, ready-to-buy buyers, all from the beginning weeks in the lessons. And all of this happening at the height of a national recession. So I'm so proud of the people that have stepped out, that have refused to buy into mass mind thinking. And she's a Century 21 realtor, and her associates couldn't figure out what was happening to her, how she was doing this. But that's one example of someone who's on commission. Actually, I kept getting results and letters from her for the next 2 years. Sometimes my students will go back and repeat the lesson work later on, and they start manifesting all over again. But yes, that continued throughout that recessionary period. Allison had come from Canada with her husband, and she needed to work. Her husband had started a new business. They had a young son. First time when she came to me, she didn't have a visa to work, and within a couple of weeks, she started the lesson program. She actually found a job where she was able to work until she got her visa, and she wanted to get a really good job, and she did. And everything worked out fine. But then she came back and she said, I want to use the lessons again because I'm ready to get I want a better job with more salary. But she said, I'm really concerned because I want to go back to school. I want to get a master's degree. And yet I have to work. She still needed to work full time. She's part of supporting the family. And I can't make up my mind because I'd love to go back to school, but I have to work. Well, she applied the lessons. Within 2 weeks, again, this is what we talk about, universe on speed dial. And she's a perfect example of the students that just seem to, stay within that 2-week framework, and they apply the lessons, they do it, and then things happen. She attracted a job close to her home that paid for her master's degree. So she was able to get both. And later on, about a year and a half ago, she came back. She said, I got my master's degree. I'm going to do the lessons again. I'm going to apply the lessons again because now I'm ready for an even better, I want my dream job, helping people with a senior leadership position, and I want more salary. And again, this was during the economic recession where people were being laid off. Again, within 2 weeks, she got the dream job. Within a very short time, they made her senior vice president, and all of this was done at a great increase in salary. So again, the laws can work for those who are on their own, for entrepreneurs, self-employed. It can work for people who are looking for great jobs, for the right job. We're going to want a job. You want your ideal job. You want the perfect job for you and your talents and your skills. And that's what you want. You want to use these laws to be in your right place with the right people and your true purpose. Now, Michael is in the UK. He's a copywriter and a ghostwriter. And he sent me this note that said, Marilyn's teachings subtly influence events at Buckingham Palace. So, of course, that got my attention, Debra. And if I may, I'd like to read right from his words here because he says this so perfectly. It says, Marilyn boldly states that with her teachings, you will have the universe on speed dial. Well, that was interesting because I've been getting used to the exact opposite, slowness. In the first week of applying Marilyn's lessons for a ghostwriting project, I confirmed a foreword by Prince Philip and a dedication by Lady Soames, the daughter of Winston Churchill. The universe loves speed. Wow. The palace response, almost immediately followed by Lady Soames' decision, was like a double sonic boom, a cosmic cry to me saying, this stuff really works. A week later, the speed dial went crazy. I just finished writing my Feel Free to Prosper affirmations when there was a knock at the door. Manuscript back from the palace with agreed forward, brilliantly composed by Prince Philip, general rejoicing. And I mean, that just really threw me. I thought that was so incredible. Buckingham Palace. Now, he was pretty much at a standstill when he first reached out to me, and that's pretty amazing. Prince Philip and the daughter of Winston Churchill for this ghostwriting project. So that's one of those that is just way beyond something that you might expect. And then, let's go from Buckingham Palace to a down-home couple in, this is Karen and her husband Harry. They're in Kansas. May I read this to you?
Yeah.
Read it because, again, I don't want to miss any details here. Sent me a letter just a few weeks ago, and this is another one of those things that's really, really, really unusual. 3 years ago, my husband received a letter stating he owed $20,000 to the IRS. He was unemployed at the time this happened. He didn't file a couple of years, but we could not understand how they figured he owed $20,000. He was only a truck driver. Now, Debra, I love truck drivers. We need truck drivers, but those are her words. We knew we needed an attorney to help us, but we didn't have the money to hire one. We saw on the IRS site that they listed attorneys free of charge. So we got one, and it's been a long road, 3 years of court hearings, bank statements, paycheck stubs, month after month. Harry's working now. She also told me later that they were taking penalties and interest out of his paycheck. Back again to her words. There was another hearing last month, and they said that the final decision, whether they would take the offer the attorney presented or demand all of the money, was to be made in April, 4 months from now. They were waiting to see how much Harry made this year. We ordered your Feel Free to Prosper program on Friday, December 14th. My husband started the course on Sunday, the 16th. I am writing this on Wednesday, the 19th. Here it is just 3 days later, and he received a call from his attorney today. After 3 years, the IRS realized they made a mistake, and Harry only owes $700, which will be paid out of this year's refund, so nothing out of pocket. $20,000 hanging over our head to the IRS for 3 years, and now we are free, just like that. Thanks, Marilyn, for creating this program and sharing it with the world. Do you realize that universal presence is greater and more powerful than the IRS or any government agency? That's amazing. I'm not surprised. None of this surprises me, but it's just so exciting.
It's so exciting. I mean, truly, from Buckingham Palace to the IRS. And it's so profound because I realize now why you say that your job or your clients or your investments are not the source of your income. You can create anything if you apply the principles.
Now, but you see now why it ties in with the universe on speed dial? Because for 9 years, I've had thousands of students experience this. So, that's it. Somehow I was blessed to tap into a way to present this work that just works. And I will be eternally grateful. This is my life's mission. And this is it. And what I want to do is teach everybody how to tap in to find what they're here to do and what's going to make their hearts sing.
Then I want you to do that right now because I know there's so much more to learn from you. And I know that our listeners are chomping at the bit to hear what you have to offer. And I know that you've created a special offer for everyone who's listening. And I highly encourage all of you to go to Marilyn's special offer page right now and experience it for yourself.
To access this package for yourself, just click on the special offer button on this webpage.
So Marilyn, can you let everyone know what they'll find there?
It is the complete 2-month program that includes the 4 primary Feel Free to Prosper lessons and 2 additional lessons. So there's 6 lessons, and there are 8 interactive group mentoring calls. These are the recordings of the actual sessions, the group sessions that I did. So you'll have 8 sessions that you listen to once a week. This is not labor intensive. There's not a lot of study and workbooks. Remember, it's simple, subconscious like simple. The laws are simple. These are techniques that you're going to use, the lesson techniques, and the homework's going to take you about 15 minutes a day. You're going to write what I give you, and the rest of it will be absorbed by your mind just as you go about your daily business. It's simple. It's easy, but you have to do it. But you can't let the simplicity fool you. It works. So what I'm giving as my offer is the complete program, and I'm also including a bonus program. And what that is one of my most compelling calls that I did. It's I think a 2.5-hour call, and it's about how to use the powerful principle of gratitude to attract what you don't yet have. I mean, we all know how to be thankful for our blessings, and that's very important, to be grateful for what we have. But this is a more uncommon process to be able to use gratitude to attract what you don't have yet. And I'm including that as an extra bonus. So that's what you're going to find out. You'll see some background, you'll see more testimonials, and you'll see some aspects of the program. But when you scroll down the page, you're going to see a link that goes to an overview of the program. And if you click on that link, it will take you to another page that gives you a breakdown of the lessons, what the lessons are about, and the audio topics. So you'll have a breakdown of the complete 2-month program. You'll know what you'll be getting for that. And that's it.
Well, this is very generous. It's very exciting. And I think that we're all excited to get going on it and see what's going to happen in 2 weeks. And I think it's going to be really good. Well, before we sign off, and thank you so much for everything that you've given us. I mean, not only the generosity of your offer, but you've just given us so much knowledge and really given of yourself. You're an extraordinary person. And I would just like to ask you before we sign off, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
Well, I do have a couple of final thoughts, but I just want to thank you for what you just said. That really means a lot, Debra. Thank you. It's very meaningful. I really appreciate your words. I'm going to leave you with 2 final thoughts but they're not my words. They're words that I love, and something that will, I think, make you really think. But these are important to me, and they're 2 quotes. And one quote is by Paramahansa Yogananda. You may know him as the author of Autobiography of a Yogi. But this is my definition of wealth. I love this. Success is not to be measured by how much material wealth is possessed, but whether you are able to create at will what you need. So that's one of my personal favorites, and I love this one. First, you jump off the cliff and you build your wings on the way down. And that was Ray Bradbury. And that's what we do here in this work. We jump off the cliff and we build our wings on the way down because we know we are going to be supported.
Well, that just gave me chills, and I think probably other people are experiencing that too. And I just want to say one more time that I sincerely hope that many people take advantage of your programs, that they can see their lives and their prosperity turn around. And
if you haven't yet, go ahead and click on the special offer button on this page, and you will see for yourself what an amazing, amazing package this is. You are absolutely going to love it. I promise you.
Marilyn, again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for being such a wonderful host.
And I hope you'll come back.
If you invite me, absolutely. I would love to.
I think everybody's saying, yes, come back.
There's so much to learn, and I love teaching. So, yes, I'll come back with some more teachings, of course.
Very good. You're just an extraordinary teacher, and we're just honored to have you as part of this series.
Oh, my honor.
And thank you, dear. And thank you to everyone for spending the time with me and with Marilyn Jenett. And I look forward to when we are all together again. And I look forward to all of you prospering and living your life without limits. This is Debra Poneman. Have a fantastic rest of your day.